Hello, I'm Kim Warren, and I would like to welcome you to this short video on how to get started with teaching strategy dynamics. I spent the first part of my career as a strategy professional, starting out in the oil and petrochemicals industry, and then in restaurants and hotels. I then moved to London Business School, where I taught core strategy courses for some 10 years, where the ideas about strategic management dynamics actually came from. The first question you might ask yourself is, what strategy dynamics adds to existing ways of looking at strategy? Well, the existing strategy frameworks are very good at asking questions about a firm's positioning. Where, for example, should a business try to compete given the competitive and other industry conditions that it's facing? That's where frameworks such as Michael Porter's 5 Forces or the analysis of political, economic, social and technological factors are very useful. There are also frameworks for identifying the best value proposition to offer and to whom, tools such as the value curve or value chain, for example. Then there are additional frameworks for assessing what's needed to gain competitive advantage, looking, for example, at the firm's resources and capabilities. There is an additional need, however, which is to help understand how to manage strategy over time. In most cases, the answers to where a firm should best position itself will not change very much from month to month or even from year to year. However, strategy needs to be managed continuously over time as the organisation and the environment in which it is operating develops. Strategy also needs to be managed holistically across all functions and significant decisions. You need to decide on product development priorities at the same time as your marketing focus, price levels, hiring, capacity expansion, and so on. And this is not something that can be left to a once-a-year strategic planning review. Thirdly, strategic management is fundamentally a quantitative profession. Not only does management need to know what to do and when, but also how much effort to put into product development, what marketing expenditure levels to set, and so on. Ideally, any solution to this challenge of managing strategy over time should be a method that is teachable and professional, that can be used in the real world. And since strategic management is something you have to actively do, it would be good if there were opportunities for students to lead their own learning by practicing the skills they will need. Lastly, it would be good if the learning is enjoyable, both for the teacher and for the students. People generally tend to learn better if they're enjoying themselves. In moving from questions of firm positioning to the issues of managing strategy over time, we're also changing the perspective somewhat from an industry-based focus to a firm-centred focus. Classically, industry-based strategic positioning starts by understanding industry conditions, goes on to identify opportunities given those conditions that make it possible to be profitable, and finally review what resources and capabilities need to be built. This, if you like, is an outside-in approach to developing strategy. In a firm-centred approach to strategic management, we start by laying out how the business actually works and makes money. We then see how it can succeed in that aim when it's competing against rivals by building the resources and capabilities it needs. And finally, we can see how these interactions between competitors and the market they're operating in actually drive industry evolution. This then is more of an inside-out approach to strategy. It has one further advantage, which is that because it starts with how the organisation itself actually functions, it's equally applicable to public service, not-for-profit and non-governmental organisations. It's just that the objectives in those cases are not about profit growth or profit maximisation. These two perspectives answer complementary but contrasting questions. From an industry-based start point, the strategy question we're seeking to answer is, how do we get a good profit position? Industries feature characteristic distribution of profitability amongst the firms that compete in those industries, and what we'd like to do is find a place where we can be more than averagely profitable. For the firm-centred strategy, however, the question is different in a subtle but important way. Our concern now is how we drive sustained profit growth. That breaks down into 3 sub-questions. First, we need to understand why our profit has got to the point it is today. Secondly, where that profit trajectory is likely to go into the future, given a continuation of current strategy. And lastly, how we can find a way to improve that trajectory and grow profits more strongly than they would otherwise do. How then does a dynamics perspective fit with a standard strategy course? We're assuming here that you already teach a regular strategy course or are planning to do so. Although strategy courses vary widely in their outline, they will typically cover the following broad topics. Starting with the importance of specifying a vision and mission, the course will move on to understand the industry in which the firm's competing and the competitors involved in that industry. It will look at the resources and capabilities involved, the sources of competitive advantage, and then pay some attention to how the strategic planning process works. There will often be segments looking at how strategy differs between different industry contexts, technological industries or mature markets, for example. And if time allows, the course will have sessions towards the end looking at corporate strategy issues, that's issues to do with the multi-business firm, including diversification, international strategy, and so on. The places where strategy dynamics can contribute are as follows. First of all, when we look at vision and mission, we're focusing on understanding how to build performance over time. Since we're focusing on the firm itself rather than competitors or the industry at this point, strategy dynamics pays particular attention to how resources are built and sustained over time, and the similar principles apply to how capabilities work. Strategy dynamics is also useful when you come to discuss implementation, because it pays close attention to how policy is designed so that strategy is controlled and delivers the performance improvements that are being sought. The approach has much to say about the dynamics of competition between different rivals, and from there it's possible to start discussions about the interdependency between competing suppliers and the market that they serve. Although the textbook itself doesn't have sections devoted to different industry contexts, there are many examples throughout the book covering a wide variety of industries, ranging from professional services, retailing, consumer brands, and manufacturing. Up to this point, issues of corporate strategy have not been addressed, but that will be coming in future editions of the textbook. Now, the important point to appreciate is that you don't have to do all this at once. You can get started with teaching the approach one step at a time. The easiest step to take is to use some of the simple frameworks in existing class discussions. There are many simple exhibits that can be used with common cases and built into class discussions you would be having in any case. There's a separate short video on these frameworks at strategydynamics.com/teachers. The next thing you can try is using some of the in-class exercises and small simulations that support the book. These take the form of small games that can be run either in class on students' laptops or else in breakout groups, and these can be run in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. More complex examples can provide richer learning but still do not take a huge amount of time. Examples of these games can be found at strategydynamics.com/SMD resources. The next stage is to consider adding a complete dynamics section to a class. The easiest example to use here is to pick up one of the many case studies that exist on the low-fare airline industry and use this in conjunction with the low-fare airline microworld. A microworld is simply a simulation game designed to be integrated with and linked to a case study, and this particular simulation allows students to try their hand at steering strategy for one of these businesses against a background where there is competition both from other low-fare operators and from incumbent airlines. Having built confidence through these first three steps, you can then go on to insert more dynamics-based classes, or indeed teach the entire strategy dynamics course. To help you with this, there's a range of resources available, this Getting Started guide being just one of them. Also available, of course, are slides which reflect the figures from the textbook, and we've also recorded over 6 hours of video classes that together make up a complete online course. To help you learn about the approach, this is available at low cost to registered teachers. You'll find out more about these resources at strategydynamics.com/SMD resources. There is also a discussion forum about strategy dynamics, which includes a section specifically related to discussions and questions about courses and teaching. Lastly, we'll be offering teacher workshops, wherever possible linked to conferences that you may be attending. In addition, there is low-cost academic access for other teaching materials, including many of the simulations and also some strategy mapping software specifically developed to support this approach. What we suggest you do next is view more information on the teachers page. There you can register as a teacher for access to additional materials, You can also register to receive a series of email briefings which outline the key points from each chapter of the book, and you're also able to register your interest in taking part in the teacher workshops. Finally, we suggest you investigate the range of learning materials available at strategydynamics.com. Thank you for watching this short video. You'll now be returned to the Teachers page.